Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today, the last day of the session for yet another AI talk. However, much as the hype is around generative AI, content creation, video creation, maybe writing some code, this session is not about that. We're about back-end operational use cases, which is best served by more traditional, am I too close to this one? Okay. Best served by more traditional machine learning and predictive AI models. The kind of models that if you have 2 to 3 years of your own proprietary data, you use it to test and train a model, you can create a truly competitive advantage in your operations. I'm delighted to be joined today by Mark Credian from the ALDO Group. Mark's been with ALDO for a little over 9 years now, currently serving as their VP of Post-Purchase Operations and Business Analytics. And he's been with ALDO for 9 years, and he's been focused on more the post-purchase experience, so order fulfillment operations, customer service, and inventory optimization, and driving more data-driven decision-making across their entire organization. And Mark's truly an e-commerce innovator. He's been working in e-com for the last 25 plus years, and we're really excited to be working with him for the last 2+ years since ALDO implemented our flagship product, Fluent Order Management, to support both their operational needs and also their AI goals. Also joining me today is Jamie Cairns, our Chief Strategy Officer at Fluent Commerce. And Jamie's also the host of the Innovators in Commerce and Delivery podcast. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. But in the meantime, over to you.
Absolutely. You want to hang out? A little bit of feedback. Can everybody hear me? That's okay? Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicola. Thank you all for attending the session. Thanks to NRF for having a great conference this week, these last few days. It's been absolutely awesome. And thank you to Fluent as well for sponsoring this session. I'm a bit of a nerd and a geek on the subject matter, so always appreciate the opportunity when someone wants to put me up on stage and talk to you all about a topic that I get to nerd out a little bit. I work for the ALDO Group. The ALDO Group is a fashion, footwear, and accessories brand, retail operator, wholesaler, manufacturer, very vertically integrated. Founded 50 years ago in Montreal. I was also founded in Montreal, but not quite 50 years yet for me, although every day gets closer and closer. On the right, you see one of our initial wooden clog concepts back in the 70s that really helped the rise for the fame for the brand and has evolved very much since then. Now we're global. My day-to-day, 99% of my job is focused on Canada and United States, so I'm going to focus on that topic. So we'll be talking about 450 or so stores that we have across those two markets and the cool things that we do with those stores. We have 3 brands, ALDO being the main one. We have about 250 stores in the United States, another 100 stores in Canada, wholesale partners as well. But with all those stores, we have a lot of area to optimize against. Call It Spring is a bit of a younger demographic for us, about 100 stores in Canada and also wholesale partners in the United States. And Globo is our family-oriented brand, footwear, handbags, accessories for all ages, about 50 stores in Canada that we have. Globo also has licensed product from other footwear manufacturers that we have available in our store. We do private label as well. Here are some of the great brands that we work with, producing product for them that we love so much. And we have company values too, very corporate social responsibility. So really proud to throw that up there too. I'm proud of the work that we do, in this case for climate change, but for a lot of other social responsibility aspects as well. Quick check, Jamie, Nicola, audio's good, everything's good. I'm not talking too fast. I'm making a little bit of sense.
Audio's great.
Awesome.
It's been, first of all, a real pleasure to be working with another nerd. I don't know if anyone's seen the OMS Nerds t-shirts around the place. We're fully embracing all of our collective inner nerdiness today. So it's been a pleasure. One thing that was really great when we first started working together was that omnichannel was absolutely not your first rodeo when we got together. You'd already been doing it for quite some time. What was quite interesting was the way in which you'd set up your distribution network. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Great segue. And omni-channel, and also the complexity that it comes with. it really lies to a great partnership with AI. And so here's a picture from a few months back where our founder on the far left, Aldo Bensadoun, Mr. B, as we affectionately call him at the office, is there with Harley Finkelstein, who was also speaking yesterday, president of Shopify, talking about the concept of AI and quoted as saying, you know, AI is meant to be a really good friend. And that's where it's going to help us or help me in terms of omni-channel operations. It's going to augment what we're doing currently, because the complexity in omni-channel is it has grown quite a bit over the years. So to Jamie's question or Jamie's point, I tell a funny story, which I've since been told I was lying actually, but I'm still going to tell it my way anyway because it's a little bit funnier. When e-commerce started at the ALDO Group 15 plus years ago, the thought was from the executives, like, who's going to buy shoes online? You know, it's such a tactile product. People want to touch it, feel it, try it on, see the quality. No one's going to buy shoes online. So rather than stand up a fulfillment center, they're like, okay, we'll set up one store. And, you know, when the 2 or 3 orders come in per week, that store can handle that volume. Well, first 24 hours, that store was absolutely overwhelmed. It was actually a New York City store at the time. The benefit of that model is we could cookie cut it to other stores very quickly because we set up the infrastructure for the store model. And so fast forward many years, that's how our omni-channel fulfillment model started, was really fulfillment by stores and not by fulfillment centers at a large percentage. Omni-channel has evolved. It absolutely was a buzzword. I personally think it's more of a philosophy or a methodology now. It really puts the customer at the center. Whatever the customer wants to do, whatever policy, they should be consistent, pricing should be consistent. Their choice of interaction with your brand really should be flexible enough to put them at the center of what their needs are. And that leads to the complexities of all these different areas. Am I picking up in store? Am I returning in store? Where is the inventory going from to? How am I keeping the customer at the center of this proposition? And so what better matrix mess, let's say, for lack of a better word, than for AI to manage or even maximize beyond that. So we'll start with a really basic example. I've got my 250 stores across the United States. And if I have one customer asking for a product in Texas, I can optimize across all of those stores to decide who should fulfill that order. I have 250 locations now. Proximity is obviously one of the basic levels of optimization. But as we go into more variables in a second, you'll see that the complexity of the choice can be a lot more sophisticated. I should mention as well, for us, we do this optimization not just for e-commerce, but when you're walking into a store, and let's say they don't exactly have the right size and color that you want, you try on a different color, you like the fit, you know what the size that you want is, we can order that through the same fulfillment channel and send it back to you, whether it's to a store for a try-on experience or back to your home. So both the e-commerce volume as well as what we call in-store ordering volume, that's in total our digital volume that we can optimize against. So we are crazy strong on store fulfillment. We do 95% plus of our fulfillment from our stores. We've even had periods where we've managed the business doing 100% of that fulfillment from there. The benefits that I'm going to walk through now are the precursors for what I'll talk about, the variables that we can optimize against. So we have near unlimited inventory because there are no inventory silos. It's not fulfillment centers for e-com and stores do stores. We see inventory from everything. And when we run out, it means everybody's run out. There's no pockets of inventory left over at the end. Everybody has run out. Naturally, that leads to higher inventory velocity because now I don't just have the person walking into the store pulling or looking at product and pulling that demand. I have the digital set of eyes. So I have 2 sets of eyes looking at any piece of product and pulling on that product to try and satisfy that demand. Scalable workforce. So when we first were launching, there was a period where we had a higher percentage of fulfillment. And especially for us, our peak is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, as it is for many other people. So normally we would run shifts of 30 to 40 people, 2 shifts a day. And that was pretty good for like 48 to 50 weeks out of the year. But for 2 weeks out of the year, I could not get enough physical space, and it didn't make sense to change the setup to just for 2 weeks out of the year. But if you look at the store fulfillment model, I can have 1 extra person in each of our 250 stores, and I've just staffed up by 250 people. If I do 2 people, I have 500 people. Physically, I couldn't do that in a fulfillment center. There's too many, physical obstructions in that. So the scalable workforce is really one of the unsung heroes, I feel, to manage crazy peaks in your business and easily scale up and down in a physical way. At the same time, too, the square footage of your brick and mortar is a fixed cost, whereas fulfillment centers, you can sort of customize the square footage you want. So why not maximize what you're already paying for brick and mortar and use it for your fulfillment needs as well? It fosters that omni-channel culture. There's a change management element to get everybody aligned on satisfying both digital and brick and mortar customers, that one customer concept. But when you're talking about sharing inventory, having complete inventory visibility, you gain the associates' trust and faith in that as well. So it really goes a long way to share that inventory and to foster that omni-channel customer view. And lastly, the concept of zone skipping. So if I can move product in bulk rather than to 2 or 3 or 5 fulfillment centers, but instead to 250, I am really getting closer to my end customer. So then I only do the final mile by parcel cost, individual cost at a higher rate, but for a smaller distance. And I do much more zone skipping of zones by bulk travel, which is way more cost effective. There are some challenges, though, as well, of course. The inventory, unlike a fulfillment center, is not sitting on a shelf waiting perfectly quiet for someone to order it. It's physical inventory that's being touched and used and tried on in stores. So the quality degrades over time, and you have to overcome that obstacle or account for that obstacle. The demand can be crazy. So sometimes from a merchandising aspect, collections get broken, styling gets broken, visual collections or visual product categories can get broken in the store because the demand is so hot and it can pull out product. So you have to account for that as well. You have a higher level of inventory allocation, sophistication to do. You're not just planning the supply for the demand of 4 walls. You're planning for regional demand because many people can grab the product out of those walls as well. You do have to overcome conflicting workforce priorities, despite the fact that you can sort of preach the philosophy. At the same time, people walk into a store and they have a rush. So you always have to prioritize. Am I fulfilling an order or am I going to serve the customer that's in front of me? And of course, the customer that's in front of you is the one that wins. So you have to tolerate a little bit of that in terms of your fulfillment tasks. And so maybe there's a slight delay, but it's usually transparent to the customer. And last but not least, retail environments also have a higher turnover rate as well. So you have to plan for, repetitive training to make sure that, the people who are usually often starting their careers in retail and going to move on, that they're going to, ultimately leave your retail environment and change on in their career. So you'll have to repeat training and make sure that you keep a good amount of tribal knowledge present in your retail team. Good. Am I good still? Audio's good?
Mark, just touching on a couple of those, I had the opportunity in one of your Montreal stores to go and fulfill some orders and can confirm that I need more training. I did a pretty terrible job of that. But one thing that I did note was the passion and the commitment of the staff. They're really embodying the brand and really getting into things. So you talked about that scalable workforce and operations during peak period. I know there's a lot of people out in the audience, I'm sure, have just been through peak period and be really interested. This is what you can share about the impact that this choice of fulfillment methodology has had in your most recent peak periods, or how you see it impacting the overall financials.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the free labor, even though you were probably shipping slowly. It was some free labor for us, shipping out those orders, Jamie. Peak period for us this year, I would say, has been a return to normal. So back when we were in the fulfillment center, peak period, the spike that comes in between Thanksgiving Thursday and Cyber Monday would often take, a day or multiple days or the entire week to catch up. This year by Wednesday, so after Give Back Tuesday, we got onto Wednesday, we were back to normal operations. So it's really a testament to the scalability of managing a physical problem with a number of people. It was a return to normal, back to many records that we had pre-pandemic. We've got that tribal knowledge back and that strength back in our store teams, and really good success getting through this peak. So we're very good there. Okay. Getting a little bit more concrete, those are qualitative benefits. Now let's dial into a little bit more quantitative and also talk about how those can then be optimized by more advanced analytics, artificial intelligence. So I talked about improved inventory turns. So that then, of course, the faster that you can move your inventory, especially for time-sensitive product like we have, which is fashion-based product, the faster you can move that inventory, the more full price dollars you're probably capturing. The less likely it's going to lag and it's going to end up in a markdown. So that is definitely one of the benefits that you get to optimize against. You can also optimize the brick and mortar inventory levels as well at a higher level so that you're prioritizing inventory for hot demand product in certain brick and mortar locations and fulfilling from other locations. That creates a customer satisfaction and a customer conversion improvement that you experience as well, because you are able to better target where the inventory comes and goes fulfilling your digital orders. Likewise, for the e-commerce customer too, you have multiple opportunities to fulfill against. So even if you fail in execution by store number one that you want to fulfill, you can, as long as you have the teams engaged fast enough, do a second or third attempt. Usually it never takes more than 3. And the customer never notices the difference. You can often do those 3 attempts within 24 hours and reduce the element of an out-of-stock cancellation because you're using multiple locations to be able to fulfill against. I mentioned reduced shipping costs already by zone skipping, but beyond that, you get the opportunity of 0 transport requirements. So as you prioritize your inventory, I can actually, because of the BOPIS, the buy online, pick up in store concept, I can optimize against that and try and have it ready so that when you place your order and I know you want to pick it up in the store, the inventory is already there. So I've now had 0 transport required. You check out online, within minutes, you get the confirmation that it's already ready for you. And it cost me nothing. I only did bulk transport it to get it there. I didn't have to do a parcel transfer or parcel delivery to go from one store to the other one. And all that together leads to a great end of season situation where you have less transfers, less liquidation, less manipulation of product. So those all cumulatively come to a lot of end of season benefits as well as you're refreshing yourself and getting ready to for the new season. Conservatively, very easily, a 1.5% full margin impact from these cumulative little tweaks and adjustments of benefits. And on an 8-figure, 9-figure business, if not even more, that becomes a very massive number. That becomes very palatable. All right, we said at the beginning by Nicola, this wasn't a generative AI topic, but you can't get away with not having a generative AI slide. So I'm sure everyone can feel it coming. And here it is, Franken-Einstein. So what it's meant to symbolize is obviously the state of technology today. Muscle plus brains plus data gives you this. And that's kind of the perfect moment of where we are right now. The muscle, I'm not a techie guy, so I'm not going to speak too long to this point. But the level that we are, I'll summarize it as cloud-based supercomputing that is so readily accessible, not just to do analytics like after the fact, like post-mortem analytics, but real-time analytical decisions. That's the space that you're in. So when that customer is placing that order, within seconds, I can add on so many factors and variables and make decisions based on that. And I'll segue back to Fluent as well. That's where, this is the platform that we chose absolutely right for us. Not only because they do all of that super thinking themselves, but they have the ability of, if we need to plug into another brain somewhere else, that's where they can architect the flows and configure the flows in such a way that we can handle different scenarios with different levels of optimization. So they definitely have all that scalability, all that muscle as well. And we're working together on building the brains too. And where it makes sense or where it doesn't make sense, we'll connect with another technology. So that's why it's the partner that's right for us. I'll speak more about the brains now. And again, I'm not a techie guy, so definitely data science and artificial intelligence is not my forte. I think the graph on the right is more for me to kind of get it right, to make sure I don't say the terms too wrong, more than it is for you. But I'll summarize it by, rewind a bunch of years, we were all collecting data, right? So the buzzword of big data was the big one that we were talking about. And then that data needed to be in an infrastructure that was more dynamic. It couldn't be just be in static Excel files or static databases. It needed to be on hardware that was more readily accessible and able to handle the quantity. Fast forward a little bit more and the concepts of data science emerge. You can apply models now onto that data to uncover the patterns. And now where you are today is those models can be executed so real time in technology that you can actually have the concept of like an artificial intelligence to influence your operations. So you really have, a Pandora's box of data opportunities. And this is where I get a little bit more nerdy again and think about all the different ways that you can sort of see patterns and try and find new ways to optimize, your operations. So clearly, e-com and point of sale, your own transaction data is a foundation element. Not only that, you have the browsing experience, web browsing data, so not necessarily the transactional one, but what was interested in, where are people browsing from, so that can be regionalized and localized. You have the mall traffic, your traffic counters that are in stores as well. We've gone a step further. We really love the web browsing concept, and so we brought that in stores with our own technology, which we call mFind. An mFind device allows you to, let's say you're walking in store and you're going to try on a few pairs. You might only leave with one, but the other ones that you tried on are demand signals. So maybe those ones, that profile of 2 or 3 pairs in one store in Texas may be different than a profile of 2 or 3 pairs that someone might try on in another store. If you only look at the transaction data, you miss the other things that were of interest. But if you bring in the other things that people tried on, you see patterns as well, which similar patterns or like patterns are interested in different regions. So that's been a wealth of data for us too. And then you get into external sources like social media, search engine results. All of that can be regionalized and localized as well. And then even more abstract ideas like weather patterns. How does that influence customer psychology, customer demand, and regional and local events, customer confidence at the local level, demographic info, all of that can be ingested now and is available as data too. So it really becomes like a wealth of unlimited variables that you can optimize against.
Yeah, Mark, I think one of the points on your last slide was around demand forecasting. Going back to your sustainability goals, there's some really interesting work that you and the team have done around combining that demand sensing information, the data in Fluent, and your demand forecasting tools. I think that's really where you were talking about the power of data and brains connecting to other brains, to be able to combine sources and do a better job of even minimizing that bulk transport further, ensuring that you allocate inventory to the correct location in the first place, taking into account all of these different data sources. And some of these data sources are really cool, like seeing how you can avoid the strikes or be aware of the strikes. What have you got? Some tangible ones, some examples from 23 that were particularly useful?
Yeah, I'll touch on both of your points. Jamie, thank you for that. The first one, absolutely. In terms of our sustainability mission, the transport piece relative to the overall operations of our business, it's a small sliver of the bucket, but anything that you can optimize in terms of carbon footprint, you have to contribute to that. So every drop in the bucket helps, and that's absolutely one of the areas that we expose in the model. And then, concrete examples of some of these cool patterns. I'll even come to a real-time one that I learned while I was here. Whenever I travel a little bit, I like to listen to the local news. I'm a dad, so dads listen to news. That's what we do. I love the fact that there was a 700-day streak that ended today. So I don't know who is paying attention or not, but the New Yorkers will know. Today was the first day in 700 days that at least an inch of snow accumulated. So I never even tapped into that. Like, I know we talk about climate change and everything, but the fact that New Yorkers went through the entire last winter without ever having an accumulation of 1 inch of snow, so less than 1 inch, for all of last winter, a part of the winter before, to the psychology point, like, what does that, like, do you go through and say, I don't need winter boots this season because maybe I can get away? Like, even me walking through the streets today, I managed to get myself through. So I'm curious, like, what can we expose about? Does that mean performance boots or athletic, like lined boots are not in demand or going to miss a demand opportunity because no one's even thinking of that because they can get away with wearing their shoes because the streets aren't messy. So that's a real world example from today. Other stuff from 2023, the weather patterns that we had last year, the southern US extreme heat waves, the northern part of the country and even into Canada. Although we had a record setting here, it didn't feel hot. So sandals in the south, I could have sold them by the truckload. In the north, we ended up transferring that inventory across a little bit. We see patterns in concerts and more so Beyonce than Taylor Swift. The Renaissance concert, the black and silver bling product As the concert would move from city to city, we would transfer merchandise from city to city because people would get dressed up and move out, getting their party gear ready for the concert experience. And then strikes as well. The SAG-AFTRA strike went on for a long period of time. What did that do for the economies of California, Atlanta, New York? The automotive industry had a strike period as well going on. So what does that do for Michigan, Illinois, that area? And then even for ourselves, we had a teacher strike that went on for extended period of time. What are the influences of those on local economic consumer demand, consumer buying patterns? All those things I think are super interesting, and I could talk about them for hours. So yeah, they're around us all the time. So it's great to uncover those patterns. Okay, so now I'll get back to, instead of my Franken-Einstein that I had before, this is a much cooler, more professional looking view. All the data comes in from the left, from all those different data sources. The center can be a Fluent or a platform that has that advanced analytics abilities, or it can also be external ones that then plugs into the Fluent, let's say on the right-hand side as a device for execution by our store associates. So, and then those plugins could be many other things. It could be a task to transfer inventory from store A to store B. It could be a way to visually merchandise that product in the store because we are sensing the demand in the right way. Or it could even be a prompt to a customer because we can regionalize the website experience to being Texas people see this list of product portfolio and New York people see another list. So, that's really the flow of how all the systems can interconnect and in real time. So we go back to our model, and I only put like 4 variables here, but easily the number of variables that you can optimize against can be 5 or 10 or 15. And you quickly see that it's impossible for a human to make those decisions. You need the advanced analytics, you need the artificial intelligence to be able to do it. The human should still spot check, should take snapshots, and should verify the logic. But other than that, you set up the system and you let the system go. And hour by hour, minute by minute, you have all of these optimization opportunities that emerge. How am I doing on time? Oh, great. So like order fulfillment is like the end of the river is how I usually describe this. And we're going to move upstream with this concept. So locally, our government, the federal government in Canada, has an initiative where there's funding sort of developments in the space to be able to have benefit to the industry at large. And we have a bit of a center of excellence in Montreal where there's some good establishments that are really advanced in that area. So we have a partnership going where we're going to try and explode this concept and bring these optimization opportunities further upstream. So whether it's product allocation or product transferring, whether it's repeat buying or restock buying, whether it's next season product influences, or even a full year out product development. Obviously, the further you go out, the less accurate you might be. So the level of optimization is always going to be available at all the stages of the river, but there really we really do see an opportunity to be able to influence these signals and with better insights at various stages of product development, of product lifecycle. And so the next 1 to 2 years, this is the kinds of benefits that we're expecting. Obviously, the order fulfillment optimization that I talked about this entire session, markdown optimization, product pricing, inventory replenishment, allocation, better allocation decisions, and then further out, product quantification opportunities, future seasonal product development. These are the topics that we'll be exploring in 2024 and 2025, and maybe an opportunity for me to come back and talk to you all about that again. So I'm out of time. I can take some questions at the side of the stage. I thank you all again for the attention and for the presence here. And again, thanks for Fluent for hosting me and putting up with me, and for NRF for a great conference. So much appreciated. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.